The first 10 p.m. closing of the year turns into a 9 p.m. closing because it is pouring rain. I hope this doesn't bode well for the rest of the season, but it can only improve from here.
Doesn't get any better than that.
Summer is here and it's in full swing, as is the 2024 amusement park season. All major parks are advertising their newest exciting additions, and Kennywood is no exception. In this video, I'm going to take you through all of Kennywood's new additions for 2024. Big or small, I'll do my best to cover them here. The last several years saw tremendous changes to the park's presentation, with buildings and rides being repainted, as well as the construction of new entranceways, ride facades, attractions, and a whole lot of general sprucing up around the park. The additions for 2024 are not quite as drastic, but they're still absolutely worth mentioning, so let's get started with the big new addition for this year, Potato Smash. The former Grand Prix bumper cars have received a complete refurbishment that goes a bit further than that. They've now been given a potato patch french fry theme, complete with fry-themed cars, new paintings on the back wall, sound effects that play during the ride cycle, and new signage and graphics on the outside of the building. We're still pretty early in the season, and Potato Smash has already proven to be a somewhat divisive addition to Kennywood. Some guests love the new theme, praising its creativity and the design of the new cars. Others dislike it, calling the theme dumb and preferring the traditional bumper car experience. Personally, I'm fine with the Potato Patch theme, and it's slowly been growing on me since I saw it in person. Grand Prix was in dire need of a refurbishment, so I'm just glad we got that in some sense, but I can appreciate that the park went the extra mile to give it an off-the-wall theme that sets this apart from other traditional bumper cars. It's definitely unusual, and that seems to fit in pretty well with the quirky vibe Kennywood has had over the years. If you can look past the Potato Patch theme, the ride experience is still your traditional bumper cars, just with a french fry coat of paint. Give this a try next time you're at the park, there's a good chance it'll make you hungry afterward. Speaking of being hungry, there are two new restaurant options to consider, the first of which is Jeter's Pub. Jeter's was one of Kennywood's many mascots over the years. He was most prominent in the 70s, but has gradually faded from the park since then. Well, he's back now, and after a few decades of being missing, it seems that Jeter's has developed a taste for draft beers. I hope the dude drinks responsibly. Jeter's Pub is located inside what was formerly the Kennyville gift shop and more recently an arcade. That arcade is not gone, but rather was moved into the lost Kennywood Games building, which had been largely unused in recent years. It's good to see the building open and full of games now, and it's a good place to duck out of the sun over in lost Kennywood. Back to Jeter's Pub, the exterior of the building has a charming appearance with Jeter's waving at you, and he's even in the upstairs window if you look hard enough. The inside, however, is an excellent tribute to Kennywood's past, featuring signage of defunct rides and past events, as well as some great artwork. It's easy to hang out in here and take it all in, and you'll have some options if you choose to do that, including 12 draft beers on tap, including 8 from local Penn Brewery, as well as smaller food options including soft pretzels, wings, and a charcuterie board. I was told during a pre-season tour back in April that an original Jeter's costume will also be on display here, so we have that to look forward to as well. Jeter's himself is also set to return as a regular walk-around character, so this is a pretty big year for the pink guy. Glad to have him back. Over by the Carousel, the former Johnny Rockets has been turned into the Carousel Burger Company. The name references the building's history as the park's original carousel pavilion, and there's retro Kennywood decor all over the interior, including 2 carousel horses flanking the front counter. Fun fact, these horses were taken from the carousel that once operated at Boomers, a family entertainment center in Medford, New York. Palace Entertainment owned Boomers when it closed in 2019, so many of its attractions have been dispersed throughout the chain. As far as food goes, Carousel Burger Company offers a variety of, you guessed it, burgers, as well as chicken, fries, and these ridiculously huge carousel shakes. I want to try one, but there's no way I'd be able to finish one of these in one sitting. I did get to try the bacon cheeseburger during the pre-season tour, and I thought it was great, so this is a good air-conditioned option to get some food on those hot summer days. Let's talk about Turtle for a minute, as it went through an extensive refurbishment over the off-season last year. The center support was rebuilt from scratch, and the whole ride was repainted. The turtles themselves look great, and they've also been reupholstered with brown leather, which in addition to making them look pretty retro, also resembles a turtle shell. Although it was open for the first few weeks, Turtle is closed at the time I'm making this video. I don't know the exact reason why, but hopefully this is a temporary closure and the ride reopens right after I upload this. If there's an update, I'll post it in a pinned comment, and then you can just ignore this part. I hope it reopens soon. After all that work, it would be a shame for it not to be running for a good portion of the season. Well, as long as we're in this area of the park, let's talk about Thunderbolt. In addition to its usual off-season track work, the fan-favorite white outline on the Thunderbolt letters has been brought back, and it looks sharper than ever. You can thank my friend Garrett for convincing them to bring that back.
Where's the mulch?
Also nearby, the large pine tree that was in Thunderbolt's infield has been cut down. Normally, I wouldn't advocate for the removal of trees from Kennywood, but this is an exception where it was definitely needed. With the tree gone, it opens up a direct line of sight with Thunderbolt Station if you're over by the potato patch, and you can see those glorious Thunderbolt letters from farther away. Something you might miss on your first Thunderbolt ride this year is a new sign on the first turn commemorating 100 years of its original configuration as the Pippin. This anniversary applies to the ravine sections of the coaster, as the helixes were added when it was turned into Thunderbolt, so technically only around half of the coaster is a century old. Still, it's always great to see Kennywood honoring their history like this. On the subject of history, Laughin' Sal has been moved from her most recent home in the arcade to next door at Old Mill. I think she fits in better here than she did in the arcade, and it's the closest she's been to her original home Laugh in the Dark in decades. I still miss Laughin' Sal being inside the train station, but that's probably my own childhood nostalgia talking, so this is a change I'm okay with. The Noah's Ark whale has a new squishy tongue as well as some new signage outside, commemorating its status as a Golden Ticket Awards legend. Very well deserved. I always enjoy a walk through Noah's Ark, and it's a must-do every time I visit. Over in Lost Kennywood, the main gift shop has been repainted and the interior has been remodeled. It looks much better, but unfortunately there's not much to discuss in terms of new merchandise. In fact, most of the merch this year seems to have absolutely nothing to do with Kennywood. Many of the shirts have random animals on them, like this T-Rex shirt, and I promise this isn't a Rampaging Rex shirt, it's just a coincidence. I've been wanting Kennywood to step up their game with merchandise for years now, especially for their coasters. We need at least one shirt for every major coaster. I got so tired of waiting for a new Phantom shirt that I ended up making my own, but I'd still gladly buy an official one if they made it. There's always next year, I guess. And that sentiment is exactly how I feel about Steel Curtain. Everyone knows this by now, so I'll only mention it briefly. But yeah, Steel Curtain is closed all year as they try to do who knows what to make it more reliable. I've talked enough about Steel Curtain before, so I'll leave it at that. As soon as we know more, I'll make a video, but for now, I'm tired of talking about this thing, so let's move on. How about a ride that's open instead? Much like Turtle, Aero 360 also received its own refurbishment over the off-season, and it's back operating once again. I missed seeing this in action last year. I'm not much for rides that hang you upside down, but Aero is a fan favorite, and the light-up Kennywood Aeros are a park icon at this point. Very glad to see this one back. Aero and many of the major attractions have been given new wait time signs that'll display how long you can roughly expect to wait in line. These wait times are also listed on the Speedy Pass site, as well as the new Kennywood app which just launched recently as well. At the moment, it's pretty identical to the standard Kennywood website, but I'm interested to see what they add to this app going forward. I've just used it to check wait times so far, but if you go to Kennywood a lot, then having this on your phone is a no-brainer. Well, I was just over at Exterminator, so let's head inside for one of my personal favorite new additions of the year. In a move that I was so happy to see, Kennywood have brought back the original Exterminator Q video that was present at the coaster's opening in 1999. The video has been missing since roughly 2012, but now a new TV has been placed on the right side of the queue running an HD upscaled version of the video. The full pre-show video is about 15 minutes in length, and it's full of glorious late 90s cheese, and I wouldn't have it any other way. There are, of course, some small issues with the video's presentation. The acoustics in the queue are pretty bad, so it's hard to understand any of the dialogue due to just how echoey it is in there. And this is going to come across as a real nitpicky thing to say, but I miss the CRTs. Those old tube TVs fit the aesthetic of a rundown building much better than the flat screen, and the video was produced in the 4:3 aspect ratio anyway, so it was definitely made for these kinds of TVs. Obviously, the average park guest isn't going to care about this, but for the longtime Kennywood fans, you probably know where I'm coming from with this. Am I glad the video is back? Absolutely, and I hope it stays around for another decade at least. If they put a CRT in here, I would of course be very excited, but this gets the job done. Besides, I can always just put it on my own CRT, so it's not all bad. Let's slow things down now for a trip into Kittyland, as there have been 2 ride removals this year. Both SS Kenny and Elephant Parade have been removed. SS Kenny I'm not too torn up about, as it hardly ever operated anyway. Its former spot is now empty, though it opens up a nice line of sight with the train as it goes by, and they did plant some new trees and bushes along the fence line. Elephant Parade, however, I'm more upset by, as it's been at the park longer than I've been alive. Ride removals are a normal part of amusement park operations, but I have a lot of nostalgia for this one as it's one of the rides I rode when I was just barely tall enough to do so. This comes after they also removed Orbiter a few years back, which I also rode a ton as a kid. I really hope they bring some new rides into Kiddieland in the next couple years, because kids deserve some new attractions too. For now, there's a pretty substantial seating area off to the side of Kiddieland, but hopefully this is temporary. Heck, they have that kiddie coaster from Boomers sitting in storage at Idlewild. Bring that here and set it up in this spot. It would fit pretty well if you ask me. Whatever they decide to build, I'm crossing my fingers that Kiddieland gets some attention in the near future. I've talked about a lot of rides so far, but now it's time I talk about a show. In the place of the garden stage this year is a new water jetpack show, and I mean it when I say this is the best thing Kennywood has done in terms of live entertainment in the past 15 years. At roughly 15 minutes long, the show is exciting, with lots of audience interaction and plenty of opportunities to get drenched. The show practically functions as another water attraction due to how soaked you'll get if you sit up front. They do the show 3 times a day, and it's a great watch if you're at all interested. The whole time I was watching it though, I could only hear one thing. This show made me think back to some of the shows from Kennywood's history, like when they shot a human cannonball off the stage in the lagoon. If this is the first step toward getting more off-the-wall shows back just like the park used to do, then this is a great place to start. So, as you can see, there's plenty new to talk about this year at Kennywood. Most of these additions are not as substantial as the ones from the last few years, but I appreciate them nonetheless. There are a few more smaller additions, such as an assortment of updated historical markers on some of the older rides, and new window graphics on a few of the food stands like the pagoda here. Small additions like these should be recognized just as much as the larger ones, as it makes for a substantial list of new things to talk about. There's also the return of Bites and Pints, as well as a new drone show set to start in July, which I obviously don't have footage of yet, but we don't have long to wait until that starts because summer is just flying by like it always does. At last, though, I've reached the end of everything new at Kennywood for the 2024 season. Like I just said, summer is flying right by, so hurry and plan that Kennywood trip because there's a lot that's new this year, and maybe I'll see you there. For those of you watching, feel free to let me know your thoughts on Kennywood's newest additions down in the comments, as well as what you'd like to see the park do next. As always, thank you all so much for watching here on Rampaging Rex Productions, and I'll see you in the next video for something completely different.